Imagine going against an European powerhouse who doesn't take bad shots, runs a patient offense, doesn't turn the ball over, and constantly swings on defense. A team full of 2K League prospects who force you to play their brand of basketball, and in order to get the gold medal, you have to contain their star players and play well enough to beat them in a best-of-3 series. Thanks for tuning in to a new content segment where I break down film from their most recent games, review the points that make them successful, then explain in detail on how I would game plan against them and maximize my chances of winning on both sides of the floor. This episode focuses on how to beat the two-time FIBA ESports European Open winner, the Turkish national esports team. Let's get into it. Turkish national esports team roster consists of point guard being Aaron, sharp Fatih, forward Tansu, forward LOVEBattleDeaD, and center Kato the Problem. And off the bench they have two superstars in Camboy and Sabri. Now from the casual fan's perspective, you would think that the Turkish squad runs your pretty standard 4-out 1-in, high left to right hash, pick and roll offense. And to them I would say that you're correct, but they run a slightly different variation that separates them from other teams. Led by Aaron and Kato, Aaron, a patient point guard with a decent dribble combo set and can be a streaky scorer at times, will dot the opposite corner if the defender is dropping too low before the center rolls, doesn't make many bad decisions, and won't shoot nor turn over his team out of a game. One thing that separates Kato from the other centers, he is effective on the roll, off the dribble, and you have to respect his jump shot off of the pop as well. Two big reasons why the Turkish team wins big games. One, they are patient, and two, they do not beat themselves. With a vague similarity in the way the legendary Pro-Am team RDG runs their offense, the point guard Aaron will set up the offense at the right hash for the most part, sometimes on the left. He randomly will call Fatih on an early wrap to switch the lock off of him. Kato will then hold the screen while Aaron tries to get open by putting together dribble combos on both sides of the screen. Pretty standard, right? If the center sits back and lock commits to guarding to a side, Aaron will quick stop and shoot the open three. If the center sits back and lock commits to guarding the dribble back to the hash, Aaron will look to break down the defense through the middle of the floor, which is ideal for what they're looking to accomplish. And to better explain this, it's best to look at the film. Okay, as you can see in this film shot right here, this is an ideal possession for the Turkish team. I wanted to break this one down in particular because I've seen a lot of things. This is what they look to do on most possessions. As you can see, Fred is cutting off Aaron's dribble back to the hash, and Kato is coming back to reset the screen. What they're looking for, Kato is looking for a temporary pop to kind of fill out the rotation that the Great Britain team is trying to do here. So the center commits to picking up the ball handler, and the lock has to cover the pop. Boom. So now that he's in the midi, if Aaron isn't open right away, he will back up towards the crowded hash in order to try to grab the defender guarding Fatih. So what that does is it's another read for Aaron to see if that guy is wanting to pick him up, whoever's guarding Fatih, to pick him up right there and have the center rotate back and see what Fred does, or see where they get confused and make the read accordingly. So from here, Fatih wraps and Kato rolls, which sometimes result in the center backing up to cover the roll, non-lock getting crabbed, and lock covering the wrap, or in this case, the off ball sticking to Fatih, and the lock recovering late to Aaron, which leads to an easy bucket. Boom, easy midi. The thing about Aaron, he doesn't throw a turnover or take a bad shot with time on the clock. If good defense is being played, he will dribble back out and dribble around until something develops. The number one rule to shutting down the Turkish game plan is to, one, make Aaron think. Aaron, his game is really good. He's more underrated in the Pro-Am scene as of right now. His areas of improvement is one, sometimes he dribbles himself into pinches. Also, it sometimes feels like he's not comfortable dribbling towards the hash. He either passes up on shots, resets, or will more than likely rim run if he feels like he doesn't have anything, or dribble out to see if anything unravels, which isn't bad qualities, it's just something that I've noticed. Making the quick read to the sharp when being pinched middle is another thing that he has to work on. There's been times where he's getting pinched, he dribbles back out, gets pinched again, and won't make that pass. As a result, once you lock your focus on Aaron to dribble into the middle of the floor, have the lock sit on the hash side of the screen, just high enough to force the bump animation to keep him middle. Whoever is guarding the sharp, sit in the spot high enough to pinch when he decides to drive and right as he takes that dribble back to where he wants to resettle. Be ready to run back to the sharp and play the mind game with him from then on out. Whoever is guarding the stack side corner, sit in a spot to play to, or just in case the off-ball defender is too far and might get dotted at one point, just so you can show for him and rotate that way. Also, be wary if Fatih dexing up top once Aaron gets anywhere within the three-point line, because that's where he's looking to lob or the kick to Fatih. The second game plan when going against this team is definitely to force the ball out of Aaron's hands early. Fatih scores most of his baskets off the ball. He is not a bad ball handler whatsoever, but to give them another look, this will set their offense back a couple pegs if someone other than Aaron has to make the decisions. Get a bump early and force a pass to the center to reset. Double at the inbound, that way he has to give the ball to someone else to dribble up the court and take some time off the clock. That way they can't get comfortable earlier in the shot clock. The third and probably the most important of this game plan when defending against this two-time winning team is to commit to the defensive rotations. I think this is a good example of a rotation from the team on Great Britain. So as you can see, once Aaron dribbles towards the middle of the floor, let the center commit and use your lock to guard the pop, which Fred does. He sits on Cato. If Cato decides to roll, lock return back to the point guard, center gets back to Cato, but this situation is slightly different. I'll show you why here in a sec. Aaron decides to dribble out to the crowded hash like we mentioned earlier. So when this happens, I would let the switch happen where in this case, Haza runs back to the point guard and Fred takes up on Fatih. And once Aaron dribbles back, off-ball defender, be prepared to pick up, lock pick up Fatih on the wrap, and it should result in an easy steal. Now going into the fourth point, which isn't really a game plan for this team specifically, but I believe it's always a solid game plan, and that is for corners to call out the drops. The most important part is the single side power forward who have to bait the pass to the corner and possibly help on the lob. Every situation is different. This is what separates the elite power forwards from your everyday pro-am guys. So it's up to the power forward to determine when to drop and when to step back and play that mind game. But if the offense is having to use the whole clock to get a good look, then he has been doing a good job. If they have to use the whole clock to score the ball, then the power forward is doing a good job. Communicating the triangle drop in advance, or even letting the off-ball defender / lock to be the ready to rotate guy, confuse the offense and potentially cause them to overthink. Now to go on the defensive end of things. The Turkish plays the meta 2-3 man-on-man zone, but what makes them different is they will use their sharp lock, Fatih, to press, and their forward, Tansu, to guard the opposite hash. Normally, teams will keep their point guard on the hash in order to get out on a break and transition, but the Turkish national team keeps Aaron defending the corner, which more than likely means he doesn't have on perimeter attribute. And more than likely, which in some bizarre case he does, he probably doesn't have any inside interior defense. This works out tremendously in their favor in most cases. They can switch completely on wraps. If one gets the initial bumps on the full court press, it makes it easier for the other to pick up on the blitz or play the pass to the center slash inbounder. Also makes swings more seamless having two forwards on the floor. Fatih is exceptional at guarding the ball handlers, and so is Tansu with guarding the 5-out. Battle plays sweet spot like a top prospect by sitting on the roll and picking off those corner passes. And with all that being said, they still have some holes in their defense. First game plan when going up against the Turkish national team and you're the one bringing the ball up, first is to run the PNR offense on whatever side Aaron is on. This way, they won't be able to run an effective triangle rotation, causing Aaron to stay home and forcing Battle to have to drop from the opposite corner. Set the big body to get the guard open on the hash, requiring Kato or Aaron to have to step out of the corner. Hit the roller early, giving him an easy bucket or make the read to the open player. If you so happen to set the offense when Aaron is on the other side, send cuts and off-ball movement to force him to have to come out of the corner and help or play defense in the paint. The second best way to game plan against this team when you're bringing the ball up is really important actually, is to watch Battle. He will drop and he will drop often, especially when sitting in the opposite corner. Now, Tansu will rotate to his corner the second he goes. And if you're too slow, Fatih will rotate to the shooter if you don't hit him right away. So one thing you have to do is you have to be able to make the read once Kato is beat on whether it's a lob available. A dot to the corner or even the skip to the hash. It has to be an instinctive play, but you have to know when Battle is dropping. Now, I think the third way to game plan against this team, if you have the personnel for it, is to run 5-out. If there is a player on the roster that I'm confident that can get a bucket out of the isolation and decent at making and reads, this may be worth considering. Haza and the Great Britain squad saw success in their offense in Game 1 of the semifinals, ran a patient offense, and put a lot of pressure on the lock to get a stop. But one thing you still have to apply the first few points. Got to watch Battle. Got to run the PNR on whatever side Aaron is on. Instead of PNR, it's attacking whatever side he's on. Attack the basket and make the reads. It's not as easy as it sounds all the time, but if you have that personality, it can become easier than you think. Also, notice where Battle is coming from and make sure shooters are waiting to knock down the shots. The downside of the 5-out, you have to make sure you're getting stops on the opposite end and not giving up threes. Because the whole point of the 5-out is being able to score most times down the court. In review, the game plan when playing defense against the Turkish national team. One is to make Aaron think, force him to second guess his passes, and make it more difficult to get around the floor with the ball. 2, get the ball out of Aaron's hands early. Give him a bump or two in the backcourt, encouraging him to give the ball to a teammate to shred some time off the clock and delay the offensive set, or simply forcing someone else to beat you. 3, commit to defensive rotation. This is going to be an adjustment of communication and habit where the team will have to move accordingly to their swing assignments. 4, corners call out drops. Calling drops will give the rest of the defense the heads up to rotate. Plays a mind game with the point guard if it isn't predictable. On the offensive end, on how to execute against the 2-time European Open winner. 1, run the PNR on whatever side Aaron is on. Can't run a triangle rotation that way. Easier to make a read when you know who is dropping from the other corner. 2, watch Battle. He drops a lot, and whoever is guarding the hash at the time will rotate to cover the corner pass. So make sure you're looking out for the rotations as well. And 3, 5-out if you have the personnel. If you have the talent that can score and make a read without a screen, put the pressure on their lock to get stops and make the read accordingly to their drops. But hey, I could just be tripping. If you think you have a better strategy on how to beat the Turkish national team, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay locked in for more 2K League and Pro-Am content. I drop my socials below the video if you wish to follow me. Click on the links on the screen to enjoy the preseason preview episodes, 5 wide Pro-Am profiles, or listen to some of the music that I've released. So next time, stay safe and take care. Yes, sir!